And now that GMA consumer alert about food labels, we count on them, of course, every day, use them to keep families healthy, keep track of calories. But what if we told you they're not always as accurate as you might think? GMA consumer correspondent Elizabeth Leamy in Washington with more. Elizabeth?
Diane, surprisingly, there is a lot of wiggle room on labels. We conducted lab tests to show you how it works. We hired a lab to test a dozen packaged food products for us, something the government rarely does.
I don't think anyone knows for sure how accurate the nutrition labels are.
First, the good news. 3 product labels were off, but in a healthy way. Weight Watchers blueberry muffins contained even less fat than listed. Nabisco mini Oreos and Pepperidge Farm chocolate chunk cookies had more protein. They're called nutrition facts, but they're not always so factual. The government actually allows foods to contain 20% more diet-damaging nutrients than the label lists before taking enforcement action.
If you're getting 20% more saturated fat or sodium in foods routinely, that's a major problem.
All 12 of our products were indeed over for at least one nutrient, and 3 were over by more than 20%. David's sunflower seeds with 23% more saturated fat, Ritz crackers with 36% more sodium, and Wonder Bread with 70% more total fat.
That's ridiculous.
In another classic case of government doublespeak, no means none, but zero doesn't always mean zilch. Manufacturers are allowed to list zero even if their product contains up to half a gram of a nutrient.
So, to know these fine distinctions, you really have to read the rule book.
So despite the zero on the labels, we found small amounts of saturated fat in baked Lay's potato chips, rolled gold pretzels, Special K cereal, and Grape Nuts Trail Mix Crunch.
I guess I always assumed the labels were accurate.
The government says trans fats are downright dangerous. The Nabisco Cheese Nips label boasts 0 trans fat, but according to our test, each serving actually contains about 1/4 gram of the artery-clogging fat. It's perfectly legal, but also troubling, because the Food and Drug Administration says Americans should try to eliminate trans fat from their diet.
That's right. You have to look for foods that say no trans fat. Those can't have any trans fat.
As for total fat, consider Snackwell's Devil's Food cookies. With 0 fat listed, they're supposed to be a guilt-free treat for dieters. But the lab we hired found more than 1/4 gram of fat in each one cookie serving. Again, legal, but who has just one?
Unfortunately, Americans don't eat the serving size on the label very often. Maybe 2, 3, even 4 times as much.
Eat 6 cookies and suddenly you've consumed 1.5 grams of fat that you didn't know about.
That's quite scary.
Bottom line, if a food tastes too good to be true, the label may be low. We want to emphasize that our study was small. We only tested 1 sample of each product. When the FDA does this sort of thing, it buys multiple samples from different lots. And that's exactly what Wonder Bread pointed out in its response to us. The company called our results questionable and said it is possible that a sample from one part of a loaf could have a slightly different fat content from another slice. But either way, Wonder Bread is a low-fat food. Ritz Crackers also says the FDA method is more accurate and fair, and added that the specific box we tested came from a lot that had undergone checks for compliance and met production specifications. David's sunflower seeds said no 2 sunflower seeds are alike. Weather, size of the seeds, and many other factors are dictated by Mother Nature, and our labels reflect the average. So that's what they had to say, Diane.
But for all those words, what are we supposed to do? What the heck are we supposed to do? If you can't trust a zero to be zero.
Well, pay attention to serving sizes. We do eat many more times than we're supposed to. And the other thing is to eat more fresh foods. Don't just rely on packaged foods like this. If you eat an apple or a banana, you know exactly what's in it.
But again,
right?
None means none.
That's right. If it says no trans fat, for example, that means none.
All right. Then you can get more information and all the details on this at abcnews.com. Coming up, some of the strangest art we have ever seen. What is it?